What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time.
Okay.
A is for Alcoholic. We are back.
Hi.
We are here. Hi. It's good to see you, Jerry.
Good to be back again.
Yes.
It's been a while. It's been quite some time.
It has been a while. Having some moderate technical difficulties here today. We started the podcast, it recorded, and then everything shut down. But these things happen, and whatever, right?
Yeah, we were warming up anyway, dude. Mm-hmm. We weren't in the full act yet.
We were
at the beginning of the act. We were getting the wheels greased.
So, what were we talking about? I guess I just wanted to say, so basically, if you're listening for the first time, if this is your first show, A is for Alcoholic, we do a podcast where Jerry and I get together. We both have about 4.5 to 5.5 years of sobriety, and we pick a letter through the alphabet. We go through the alphabet. We talk about some aspect of our alcoholism, our recovery, our sobriety, and we try to chop it up, take it out,
figure
and chop
it out,
up,
take it out, chop it up, put it back all chopped up.
Hopefully come to some conclusions or realizations. But, the one thing I wanted to say, too, is we're not experts on this, so I would only suggest that people do their own research and find their own path. And, we were mentioning before, I was mentioning about your routines and, like, your workout routines and the things that you do consistently are I think, the most helpful, right?
Well, I think we're kind of getting into it as a metaphor for even recovery because, like you were saying, that you go through this routine and that you're like, well, what do I do when it gets cold? I have to do these things now, like buy gloves and buy certain things. And then I guess right before we lost each other, I was saying that it's just like life. Like, it's just like the metaphor for recovery in the sense that, like, your routine, even though the routine remains constant, everything surrounding it changes constantly. It's in flux, So, yeah, like you run through the spring and it's beautiful, but then it starts getting colder, so you need to adapt to that. Or you need to maybe not work out some days. I was saying because you're not feeling well. Or you sprained something or strained something. Like, things have to change, They just... My routine, personally, in my life remains the same. Everything around it changes, and it's just it is what it is. You either have to accept it or fucking fight it and drown. So the choice is yours, I guess. So I'm just like, okay, well,
sometimes you don't flail around in the water. You kind of have to float calmly. And I wanted to bring this up too. We said this before, but I wanted to give a shout out to our friend Dirk Marshall, who
that's interesting. I just followed him. Go ahead. Sorry.
He has a podcast called VH Us, and I was texting with him last night, and he was saying, "Oh, this alcoholism thing is so fascinating," and which is kind of funny to us to hear. But for somebody who doesn't have that problem, when we sit here and talk about our daily struggles and issues and, overthinking it, I'm just glad that somebody who's not suffering from it can still get some value from the show and still find it entertaining.
It made me laugh because I pictured him sitting there with like a cup of tea going, this whole obsessive compulsive approach towards the substances. Really fascinating. Like, they really fucked these guys' lives up, and now they have to podcast about it.
Yeah.
And then just taking a sip of the tea, just...
So Dirk, if you're listening, thank you for the perspective.
Absolutely.
And,
And I've been drunk around Dirk, so
yes,
you should know
yes, yes. And I would say go check out his podcast. And
Yeah.
so it's called VHS and VHUS. And he grew up working in his parents' video store, so he loves old movies. And he's got a vast breadth of knowledge of old movies. And so he takes an old movie, and he I think this last one was Girl 6, which is about a phone sex operator, which Prince did the soundtrack to.
I remember Girl 6, yeah.
And so he talks to a phone sex operator. And so he interviews somebody.
People still do that.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I didn't finish the whole thing. I just started it. But the woman was saying, she has different characters she plays. And yeah, I mean...
Fascinating.
Fascinating. So...
People still talk dirty on the phone.
So VHUS is the name of the podcast for those of you
just subscribe to it.
Yeah, for those of you looking for something unrelated to recovery.
I got my 3 closest friends in Arizona do a podcast now.
Oh, really? What about?
Yeah, called Harmless Phosphorescence. It's also a movie podcast where they do old school comic book movies and then they disseminate them and chop them up. Just like we do. Except they're comedians, so it's a lot funnier than you and I.
Where does Harmless Phosphorescence come from? Where's that name come from?
I don't know. I'd have to text somebody and ask them. It's probably either a Simpsons reference or like an old movie reference.
Got it.
I'm gonna assume it's a Simpsons reference.
Okay.
The only reason I bring it up is because I just was listening to them earlier today, and then you brought up Dirk's thing.
Okay.
But on with the sad drunkenness.
I think...
No, I'm just kidding. It ain't sad.
It doesn't have to be sad. Some of it was sad. It's certainly not sad. Well, I mean, some of it still is sad. I had a really shitty day the other day, and ultimately I came to realize that, like, it's really important for me to get enough sleep. Like, that's a huge thing.
I'm in the same boat.
And I could not believe how pained and panicked and stressed and frustrated and just awful I was because I didn't have enough sleep. And Rashida was like, do you want to take a nap? And I was like, I'm not tired like that. And
I don't need to take a fucking nap, Rashida.
Basically. And so I ended up taking a nap.
Jesus.
I ended up taking a nap, and I was like, thank you for pointing that out. And I only got like 6 hours of sleep or whatever it was, 5.5 hours of sleep the night before. And I had all these different things going on. And so, finding out the things that are important. And so there's still frustrating and sad things. Today, I wanted to ask you about V is for vulnerability. We wanted to talk about what it means to be vulnerable. How does one get there? Where does it come from? Why do we want it? What do we need it for? What's the purpose point? And
what is it? I mean, what does it mean?
So,
well, honestly,
I think that vulnerability, I think it's something what we all my best understanding is we as human beings want some sort of connection, right? That's
right.
And we've had the discussion about addiction versus connection and how there's some correlation, but it's a lot more complex than just that. It's not the opposite necessarily. So being vulnerable, when I'm vulnerable, I'm opening up to who I really am, right? And it comes from shame. So if I'm ashamed of who I am, or if I'm ashamed of something I do, it's because I'm afraid that if I share with you this, whatever it is, that you won't accept me, that we will
I'll judge you. Yeah.
We will not be connected. And so that's where the vulnerability comes from, is me being able to say, Jerry, there's this thing that I do, or here what would I say? Like, oh, hey, I really like the Smiths and Morrissey, and maybe this is a silly example, but maybe if I'm feeling like, I just met somebody and he's a tough guy and I got to be a tough guy and I can't really share this sensitive side of me because I'll be judged, but what I really want is to be vulnerable and to have that, so that I can be accepted for who I truly am. Because otherwise, I'm kind of just covering that up. and a lot of that comes through in shame and self-hatred. So how do I be vulnerable? How do I get to a point where I feel comfortable sharing who I am? And I think part of it is whether or not my self-esteem, right? Do I feel worthy of love? Do I feel, and I don't know that I do 100%. I think that for me, it was, a lot of what I heard from my father was that I was not worthy of love. I was not worthy of connection and acceptance. So I think a lot of it, I still believe that my alcoholism is in there inside of me, regardless of what happened as a kid. But I think that it was exacerbated by the abuse of my father. Mm-hmm. And that has led to a great deal of my inability to be vulnerable with people.
Well, that's really vulnerable of you, John.
Yes, I mean, I seriously, like,
I know it. I understand absolutely. It's such a, I get it. I get it as a concept. I understand it as a reality, and I also understand its importance as far as recovery is concerned, because in order to get help, you need to ask for help. And as some people, the biggest hurdle is asking for anything or asking for help or expressing that they are in a, that they're in a bad way. That's really hard for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is vulnerability there. It makes you open to rejection, or like you said, open to your self, I guess, your own self-worth or self-value.
Self-value.
It's something I don't really think about. I do and don't. That's why I'm glad you picked this as a letter, because I honestly don't think I need to make myself vulnerable today. I don't think a lot of people do, though. But I can also see a correlation to it in regards to me, in my experience going to these groups and going into these rooms and like not sharing often, or not reaching out and being very friendly, or not partaking in the fellowship too much. I'm just kind of a tourist. I float in and out, I like float into the room, get what I need, float out. I'm not really, but that may be more of a social thing, which could be rooted in vulnerability, because I'm like, well, what? These people got to get to know the real me, because the real me is kind of whack, so I might as well be recovery me. Do you know what I mean?
And that's exactly so. And I feel like that notion, that idea, is it's that idea of not being worthy. It's that idea of being unworthy of love.
Right.
So I can't really share who I am, because if I were to share who I am, even I think that's kind of gross and weird.
Right,
and
like y'all won't like me because you're gonna be like,
because I don't like me.
Ugh.
And right. And
but at the same point, I don't want to walk into a room and be like, "Yo, I suck toes. That's my jam." I don't suck toes, but do you know what I mean? I'm just like, "Yo, I'm all about smelling farts." And I just got to share that and be vulnerable.
Let's try to confine our conversation to our problems with alcohol, Jerry.
Yeah, I like beer farts. When people fart beers on me. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I'm saying though? Like, so I guess there's obviously boundaries. I'm taking it really hard to an extreme here,
sure.
But I guess we do talk a lot about in our experience that reaching out to other people and finding community was really helpful for us, even if our communities are small. Like my recovery community is really you and I. And the people I know I am acquainted with in the rooms, but I don't have a recovery community. Like I don't have a group of people I go out and drink coffee with and know that this is my foundation of recovery.
Do you want that?
Not necessarily. I want it to happen organically though.
Right.
It's one of those things where I don't want to go out and look for it and be like, I need some fucking recovering alcoholic friends or recovering addict friends. Now there's people that I know that I'm acquainted with in the rooms that I think are really great people that I would like to be friends with, but I'm also like, who's got the time? It sounds funny, but it's fucked up. I'm like, where do I find time to do anything with anyone? I don't know.
Got a lot going on. Online,
got a lot going on over here.
You play a lot of video games online.
Yeah, man, I ain't gonna put it out there on PlayStation Live and be like, yo, looking for some dope fucking recovering alcoholics to play some fucking Fallout 76 with, alright?
We couldn't
Hit
get
me
like
up.
an Ace
I'm
for
a hope.
Alcoholic like Twitch stream or something.
I'm a hope dealer. I deal hope. Dude, you don't want to put anybody on Twitch stream. Gamers are gross, dude.
Everything all right over there? Did you?
Yeah, it just sounded like a garbage truck fell over in the yard. Oh, yeah, it was a garbage truck actually in the alley
Nice.
behind the Safeway.
Nice.
But I see what you're saying, and vulnerability I think does have a lot to do with. Well, it depends on the context of it, right? Because when you mention it to me in my context, I think of it versus the masculine idea of holding
Yeah.
everything close to your chest so that you were not easily attacked, be it physically or emotionally, because you
Yes.
open your heart up and you're like, I have a lot of love and I'm actually a soft person and I have a lot of affection and emotion. Typically in a masculine group, that is a feminine aspect, and therefore you shall be attacked because you no longer have masculine qualities.
You're weak.
And in that hyper masculinity, that toxic fucking masculinity that I live in like every fucking day of my life, that is like a big no. That's girl stuff. And girls are weaker than. Girls are weaker than. I mean, I hear that shit all the time. And I'm
What's
like,
your boss's? Your boss is a woman.
my boss is a woman,
Yeah,
right? So I think it's just
everybody's-
a bunch of fucking baby boys who are mad that a lady's in charge, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and I've been guilty of it myself. It's not like I'm sitting over here pious. Like, I've done some gross shit because I'm a human being and I'm made of fault, you know?
Yeah.
That being said, so when you texted me like vulnerability, I'm like, oh right, like I gotta like it's like the idea of not, because we brought up masculinity within recovery and alcoholism before. And there's always like being a man is dumb. It's real dumb sometimes. In society, it's dumb.
Yes.
You know, like we have to do dumb shit. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I don't have it harder than anybody else. I look at it and I'm like, how absurd. How fucking absurd that I have to walk around and be like, I got balls, big old balls, you know, like
Have
it's
these
so
these bizarre conversations that require us
dude,
to.
and it's so silly. And I've done it. I've been absolutely guilty of it. In recovery, I've done it, you know, because I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. None of us are. I apologize to anyone I've done that to.
Yeah. It's
If
just
you're
so.
listening to the podcast, but if I've done it to you, probably not listening to the podcast. Probably like, fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck
It's
that
just-
Jerry Wagner guy.
It's just really divisive, and I think
really
although I do believe that there are unique issues, problems, and situations that men and women go through in recovery, in life,
Right.
but in recovery,
in recovery as
right?
well. And
And
I
it's
don't know a
important.
woman's aspect of it.
right? I still
Because
think
I'm
it's
not.
pretty divisive, and I think that there
Right.
have been women in recovery that I've been like, wow, I really like what that woman has to say. Like I am, just as drawn to what a woman has to say as to what
Right.
a man has to say.
Well, if you gel with the message, it doesn't matter who's saying the message.
Exactly.
Right? You take that piece and you use it. It doesn't matter whether or not that person is A, B, or C. You know, one side, the other, in the middle, or any of the part of the spectrum of it. You know.
It's just
So-
finding that being able to admit that is hard. Sometimes.
So I think as a metaphor, it's almost like the alcoholism, my actions in alcoholism, the feeling of alcohol, the decompression of feeling drunk was like a shield, right? Like I think this is where we're getting at it. At least that's what it feels like in regards of, once again, saying the V word of vulnerability, but like it's almost like in the action of being drunk. And we joke about this all the time. You and I have done it in the past. We do it all the time in culture, is that you drink to no longer have feelings, right?
Yes.
You drink so you don't feel things. And it's funny. Like, everybody laughs about it. People also are very, very honest about it and very brutal about it. Because if you have feelings, then you show your hand. Then you show your vulnerabilities, and then now you're unworthy and people shame you, or you're weak and people can attack you that want something from you or want to take something from you. It's so strange, right? But if you have the booze armor on, then you're like, yeah, I'm a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That makes no sense.
hey, I mean, they got shells. They got turtle power.
I guess that's where I was coming
power.
far was, yeah. So you got a shell. You got a shell made of whatever, vodka crayons.
Shell of vodka crayons.
God, what a gross shell.
There's
But yeah.
it's when you open yourself up to that, or I guess when you're drinking, and you like you said, you drink to numb things, right? And I think a
Yeah.
lot of it is I know I would drink to numb the bad feelings, like all the bad
Right.
feelings, all the fear and all the sadness and all the depression. But in doing that, I also numbed out all of the good feelings. So
Right.
that sort of phony or fake little, bit of elation or bliss that comes after that first drink, and then after like the second, third, maybe even the fourth drink, where you're like, yeah, man, I'm starting to get fueled up.
Riding
Like,
that wave.
but
Yeah.
it's not real. It wasn't real for me. I mean, there was some fun to be had, I suppose, but there was never any real true joy in any of that.
Yeah.
So I just deleted all of that, and it was just easier at the time, I should say. It was easier to cover it up and not have to think about feelings, because how often did we pick on each other, and how often did we fucking, give each other a hard time, in all of our friend groups.
We were really mean to each other.
Right.
We were really mean to each other. It was like Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think that's why I still love that show, because they're just so mean to each other. And, but there was always that, like, I can be really mean to you because we're friends, so I'm allowed to take this liberty with you because I don't mean it. But you also know that there is some truth. There's a kernel of truth in there. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what do you think the purpose or the motivation for being mean to each other? Like, where do you think that comes from? Are we
Well, back then, I think for me, it was like making you prove your worth as a friend. And also keeping everybody in check. Everybody had to stay in check. Nobody could be up here. If we're all down here, you need to get the fuck back down here with us. You know what I mean? But there was also the, well, if you can take shit from me, then that means you're a good friend, because that means you'll stick with me even though I'm fucking mean to you. And but the mean was always joking. Like, we would clown on each other, and then it would get mean because somebody would get hurt. It was never like, at least the way I felt like I expressed it was never like that bullying mean in the sense that I'm like, fuck you. It was just more like, haha, fuck you, fat fuck, like, and then we'd all laugh because we were all fat fucks except for Coda. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
So that's the way, and maybe Walter, but I guess you and I were just the only fat fucks, but it was this, to me, I always thought it was endearing, and I didn't realize that all the stuff behind it was definitely like, it's complex, right? There's a ton
Fear.
of facets to it. That fear of vulnerability and being like, hey man, I really love you, and like, you're the only person who puts up with my shit other than my wife, and like, I need people to put up with my shit because I'm hurting and don't know how to express that, so I'm just let the good times roll, haha, but I mean, there's a lot under it,
I know that I was sometimes genuinely hurt by the things that were said. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't have
so
any
was I.
specific
Yeah.
instance, but it
I
was,
know you're gonna be like February
So, Jerry.
2008, Jerry.
I'm about to. I've
We
got
were
an
right in front
inventory
of
I'd
that-
like to
yeah,
read to you.
We're in that tiki bar in Seattle. We're right in front of it. And you fucking pulled my pants down.
So, but I mean, I was genuinely hurt, and so in those moments, me thinking that these were the best relationships that I had, right? These were the best friendships that I had, and so I put a lot of stock and value in them. So if something was said to me, even in jest, and it hurt me, I couldn't show you that. I couldn't show you that hurt. I couldn't say, "Hey, man, that really hurts my feelings," because that would just exacerbate the antagon.
Oh, well, you hurt? You hurt,
Yeah,
John? Eh? Yeah.
And
What
so-
was the one? You give me a Christmas present?
Right?
You give me a nice pair of jeans for Christmas, pussy? Yeah.
And so that's a little inside joke, but I swear it makes sense if you were there.
Well, and it's also a
10
mean
years
way
ago.
of making fun of each other, because you were like, I like those pants. Where'd you get those?
Yeah.
It's, well, you gonna give me a Christmas present?
Yeah. And so it was just always this sort of like, but I always felt like, okay, well, this is a positive thing, right? Because this is building me up, so I have to be strong. So this is, and it was so misguided in how to build myself up and to build my friends up, because like you said, we're over there going, oh, I don't know, he's feeling a little too good about himself. We got to bring him back down a peg. So it was always about like bringing us down rather than lifting us up, because
Right.
I was like,
Putting us all on the same level. It's like not wanting anybody to succeed, because if they succeed, they might fucking leave you too. They might bounce out and find higher class group of friends with a better cheese party or whatever, you know, like, yeah, and you don't want that, because then what? Then I got to be alone here in my shit? Fuck that. No, you stick around with me. It's funny, you got me thinking about it, though, and how much pride we took in some of the weirdest things with each other where, like, it was this toughness, right? I didn't have this conventional toughness. Like, I couldn't fist fight. I don't understand sports. I don't like sports. You know, but I have this toughness that I can go to a bar and I can fucking drink 10 fucking whiskeys, go outside, dry heave up those whiskeys, wipe my mouth off, light a cigarette, and go back in the bar and drink 10 more. And that was tough to me. That was like, fuck you and your mother. I can do that. You know what I mean? And so it just is such a skewed version of masculinity. It's such a skewed version of our versions of masculinity, our versions of invulnerability. Because this is also our version of it. You know, I don't even know if there are, like, I don't even want to really parse into that whole societal aspect of masculine versus feminine and what is this and that and these energies and shit. Because they're there, but they're also not there. You know, but in a sense of vulnerability, my armor was definitely had a lot to do with my drinking prowess, and that I could, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. We hated drinking on the weekends because all the normal amateurs were out drinking, right? They were vulnerable. They didn't understand what it was like to be like us, because they didn't. Some of them didn't. It's just like you said with Dirk, who's like fascinating, this alcoholism, right? They didn't understand that compulsion and that need and that fire, and then once you stoke that engine, it's just you just run with it, you know, until you fucking fall down or die or whatever it is you do, you know.
Yeah, we cultivated our entire schedules to, like, everybody was working on the weekends so that we could have, like, Sundays off or Mondays off to go kind of go out and be this weird, obnoxious crew of people that had no problem going out at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Now, I would get so fucking jealous of you guys because I had to work this fucking dumbass tattoo job, and y'all were in the bar. And you would drink till the sun, you know, you'd get off a shift, and then that was your nighttime, and you'd drink till like 9 and then sleep all day. And I'd be so jealous that I couldn't hang.
Yeah.
Because I was drinking bar hours. So then when you guys were all punching out and fucking having your camaraderie after
4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the morning,
I'm gone. I'm gonzo. I'm fucking blacked out. I'm trying to start a fight with Walter. I'm trying to start a fight with my wife. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm done. And so I always felt a lot of envy towards that. I always wanted to be part of that scene. Like, I just don't think I could have hacked it in a bar. I just would have fallen apart. Just the stress of it and the alcohol just would have fucked my world up even more. Like, I did not need to be behind the bar with all that free booze. You would have fired me.
It was just interesting to me. I mean, you very much know that about yourself, right? You know that you're like, that is
even
not
then
my
I
thing.
knew it, though.
Even then, and even you know, I mean, when was the last after? I think part of, and I wonder, like, because when we worked at the Coffee Corner some 20 plus years ago, and then you were apprenticing to be a tattoo artist. Like, I don't know if you chose that out of, like, I don't want to work in the restaurant jobs anymore, like I want to fucking do something else.
It pretty much is, right? So they always ask me, like, what got you in the tattoo, and I'm getting this new round of college kids who are taking journalism courses, and they always want to interview a tattooer, right? So I'm always like the guy who's like, yeah, I'll fucking do it, and I always have to answer the same question, like, what got you into tattooing? And I'm like, I draw. I've drawn my whole life. I've made art since I could make art because I was poor and I had an aptitude for art, and I didn't have a TV, so I drew. That's how I entertained myself. I never tell him that, though. I was like, oh, I used to write graffiti with a guy or whatever. But yeah, I took the job because I got a lot of disposable income at that point. I could make disposable income. I didn't have to punch in at the Coffee Corner. I could wear a shirt that said fuck on it. I could listen to Social Distortion all day or whatever I was into at that point in time. And, like, I didn't have the owner of Coffee Corner taking my hard work and using it to buy whatever fucking thing they wanted. You know, like, I could take my own hard work now, or at least a portion of my own hard work, and buy whatever I wanted with it. It was never like I wanted to be this, to uplift the art of tattooing. Now I don't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck about that. Like, now maybe, but even now I'm like, I do a job that I enjoy doing. I don't hold myself in any higher regard than anyone else. I just wish I could have hung out with the bar guys.
Right. And I think, like,
eating a greasy old egg at like 4 or 5 in the morning just at that fucking Hurricane.
Jesus.
Gotta take a cab down to the Hurricane and fucking have Bloody Marys, and I'd be at my house with my wife and daughter being like, oh, I want to go.
Can you even imagine doing that now?
No.
That sounds
No.
fucking awful.
I had a mild stomach ache yesterday, and it like almost ruined my day. I like felt a little weird in my stomach, like I might have eaten some old pumpkin pie, and was like, "Oh, I feel a little uncomfortable, a little loosey goose," you know? No, I didn't even have problems. I just felt like I might have a problem. Whereas like 5.5 years ago, like I just
Fight through that.
was made of shit. Yeah, you just fight through it. And I'd smoke and drink and be like, I'm probably gonna shit my pants today. Yeah, that's my goal, is to not do that. That's my one goal. Yeah, and smoke and drink all the way through it. Because then you drink enough, then it kind of goes away, but it doesn't. Remember we were talking about how you had an allergy to the tannins in the wine, and you get really flushed, and so then you would just drink more wine to not feel the allergies. Like that's exactly what my gut was. Like, I'm like, oh, I have IBS. No, I don't have IBS. I have fucking chronic alcoholism.
Well, not only did I have an allergy to the tannins in the wine, I had an allergy to some of the hops in the IPA. I had an allergy to some of the grains in the vodka.
A quite literal medical allergy. Like, you know how they mentioned in the big book they call it an allergy to alcohol, but I don't know how they can prove that. I don't know if they've actually proven it. Like, if I go to a doctor and they do an alcohol test, they're like, you're allergic to alcohol. But you had a literal actual allergy where you went into anaphylaxis. Like your throat wouldn't close up, but all your tissue would swell.
It would.
Like swell all
I would
up.
get red. It would swell up. I would have trouble
labor
breathing. Not like,
I hear you wheezing
labor.
next to me. Yeah. You'd sit next to me and wheeze and smoke Old Golds, and I'd be like, do you need a shot of whiskey? Do you think that'll help it? And you'd be like, yes, that would help it.
Because that was the only tool that we had available to us. I mean, that was the only tool I had was like...
I couldn't afford no doctor.
Right? I couldn't afford a doctor. I'd never even...
Can't.
You know, even the prospect of... So when I have the health insurance that I do now, and like I had to fill out paperwork, I had to talk to people on the phone, I had to email things like pay stubs or whatever, like all these different things. What do you call that? Proof of income or whatever?
Yeah.
So none of these things would have even been possible in that time. I wouldn't have picked up the phone. I wouldn't have sent an email. I think I had a Hotmail account, but I didn't really even give a shit about it. You know, so all these things that now it's like, oh, yes, I guess I could go see the doctor if something was really wrong with me. And, you know, but it did, all I had was, I guess I'll have another shot of whiskey just so I don't have to feel this, even though I'm having a painful physical reaction.
Yes.
That is hurting my breathing.
Just the this absurdity. I love that word today, but very absurd. Yeah.
Very absurd.
But yeah, I don't know, you know, like, it's just so funny. I mean, the things we did in our little peer group, even outside of it, just individually, the things we did to like mask those things, you know, to like cover those things. Everybody lives a secret life. I don't care if you're sober or not sober or what. Everybody has a secret part of their life that no one knows anything about. And that's fine. You're allowed that. Unless you're hurting other people, don't do that. You're gross. But you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has a thing that we have these, like my spouse knows certain things about me that other people don't know, just because that's shit that nobody needs to know, you know, or shit that doesn't come up in polite conversation. And then there's things I do outside of my spouse that my spouse doesn't even really know I get down with, like, you know, the gambling ring and the cockfighting and all that, and the fucking me and my terrorist organization. But, you know, so these are these things where those are also vulnerabilities. So I guess the reason why I bring it up is I wonder, where's that line? You know, where's that line? Because you talk about a lack of love or a fear of not acquiring love, and I talk about like a fear of being shamed, which is also a lack of love. And then I wonder where the line is, right? Because you know that there are people you meet in recovery who do overshare. They fucking totally overshare, and that's fine. It's just sometimes I'll walk away from some people sometime and be like, wow, but maybe they needed to get that out on me.
There's that
maybe
too.
They just needed to throw that on the table, so I have to accept it, right?
But
I also know next time I see him, I'm gonna be like, good to see you. I gotta go. You know,
it's a bit much. Yeah, I mean, and that's
much, dude. Like,
I guess that's personal. That's up to you, right? I think that I think the line is, as long as you're not hurting somebody else.
Don't do that.
I do believe,
or hurting yourself,
yourself.
As long as it's not detrimental, you know. Yeah.
But I think that we all want to be accepted for even those things that we don't share. We want to.
Right.
I think.
Right.
I think so. I think so. I don't know. Maybe not for everybody. I don't want to speak for everybody. I know that like
Maybe you're speaking for yourself.
I'm speaking
I'll
for
speak
myself
me.
and say that
I want to be accepted for those things, but I just don't want to bust them out because it's not really. Those are my things. Sometimes the things are my things. You know?
Yeah.
So I guess that reason why I take this meandering path is I'm, fleshing it out. It's just without vulnerability in that sense. Like I'll sit on the bus. I don't drive, so I'll sit on the bus and like look at people. Like I just kind of figure, I wonder what their secret lives are because I'm kind of weird like that. And I'll be like, I bet you that guy wears like ladies' underwear, and that's good. Whatever, it's probably comfy as fuck, Like, but I like suss them all out and go, oh yeah, that guy cried last night at beaches like 4 times.
And it's, it could even be like, it doesn't even have to be even that. It could be something like that guy really loves model trains and he's got a whole model train set in his basement.
And just doesn't talk about it.
Doesn't talk about it with anybody because that's his special thing. And
yeah,
and maybe
parents didn't let him have toys or whatever. Yeah,
I don't know that everybody needs to share everything about themselves and be open and completely open and vulnerable. But
yeah,
I think I feel a lot of what in recovery that was helpful was expressing these things to somebody else and telling someone else. Whether that's a sponsor, a friend or whatever, however you go about doing it.
Yeah.
But was sharing those things and going like, oh my God, I feel so much better to say something. And that's where a lot of the relief was able to begin,
You feel like you absolved yourself of the... Because when I did my 4th step, I felt like I absolved myself of some things. Mm-hmm. I got it out. I got it out in the world. And I ended up remembering things that I didn't realize I had done. Like crazy shit. And I was like, oh, wow, you did do that. And that's fucking wild that you did that because it's things I had never thought about. That once I started picking at it, everything kind of came out, And I felt better, but I also felt bad too, though. Well, I felt guilty. I felt ashamed, but I also felt better that I could be like, ugh, and just push it all out, It was helpful. And then you got to keep doing them, though. That's the way it works. You don't just do the one. You got to keep doing them all the time.
Every day, right?
Well, you're supposed to every day. I don't do them every day, but you should. It's helpful.
I mean, I find that if something comes up, and so the idea is, as I understand it, resentment is going to bring me toward drinking again, right? Now, that may take a while, and that may take years, and maybe that's this, that, and the other, and maybe it's not a direct path, and I don't have to, resolve every single resentment every single day, or else I will drink immediately. But
it's not like you're like fuck you, Hillary Clinton, and then you just drink a fucking pint of like schnapps. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's not gonna help anybody find the DNC servers anyway.
No, exactly. You and your butterscotch schnapps and your resentment ain't fucking with nobody. But resentment. That's the concept. Is that the resentment is
like
a weight.
What do I do today to deal with the things that if something pops up and I go, well, why did I feel that way? Okay, well, don't. What's gonna help me to find love and gratitude and forgiveness for that person that I am resentful toward?
Right.
I don't always have
or at
the
least
answer
accept
to that.
my resentment. See, you're already at love and gratitude. I'm just at acceptance. Like,
okay.
What's going to make me accept this person? And then once I accept them, we'll talk about and then maybe work our way up to love. But see, this is how I actually have noticed this in your recovery, how you've changed. Because you do have a lot. You are more adept at expressing your love now, which I think is, and I don't want this podcast turned into me kissing your ass. Once again, here's the old thing, right? That's the old thing of me being like, don't get too ahead of yourself there, John. But no, it's just I've noticed that you have more of an ability to express that thing that's I think been inside you all along. You just have always kind of just pushed it down and pushed it away because you're like, if I express that I love people in a caring, affectionate way that's non-sexual and non-conditional, everybody's gonna fuck with me, Whereas I'm still in this phase where I'm like, I'm allowed to express this love, but I also there's this protective thing in me where I'm like, I need to accept these things before I can offer any type of positive emotion, because I think we all carry our resentments differently. Some of us carry them really deep and some of us carry them very shallow, but it's all different with everybody. It depends on what the resentment is. I mean, I think that's why I liked that tool. And like you say every day, when you say every day and I say not every day, I think of more like sitting down and writing it out. Whereas you write everything out, and I do everything mentally. So like I'll do little ones. Yeah, I'd say I do them daily mentally in my brain. Like I'll go, okay, what did I have to do with this, and why am I so fucking butthurt about this? And like, what is my part of it? Like, what did I do anyway to welcome it in? And now I need to accept it, because being butthurt about it is not going to help me. And then I might drink. And then if I drink, I'll fucking die. That's...
Hey,
so,
man,
like,
I would rather you have that little voice in your head than have a drink, at least for now.
Yeah, because that little voice is straight up like, don't drink, you'll fucking die, Jerry. And I'm like, oh, Jesus,
is that like, does that stem from like your mom or something like that?
Yeah, probably, dude. Because, man, I never really fucked with Coke growing up. I did a little bit to keep drinking.
Yeah, me too.
But I remember my mom, I was like probably Olive's age. I was like 9 years old. And Leanne's like, don't do Coke, you'll fucking die. It like just immediately like, your heart will explode and you'll die. You'll just fucking, the minute you sniff it, you're dead. It's todo, you're dead. And I was like, oh, fuck. Or the other one was, don't take painkillers and drink because you'll fucking die. You'll die, Jerry. You'll just be dead. They'll find you in your house dead. And so that was always fun. Me the other time, I didn't really fuck with any of that stuff too much,
And I do want to say is that I heard that it's your impersonation of your mother, because Leanne, if you're listening, and I know you are, she's a very sweet and lovely woman. She
doesn't talk like that.
She
does, but she does it.
She's always been very open and accepting and super cool, and I've always had a good time with her. It's so
it's because
but it's just your impression.
She listens to the podcast.
Yeah.
But no, she doesn't talk like. But then she'll call me and be like, "I don't talk like that. I don't know why you make fun of me talking like that." And I'm like, "You're talking to me like that right now." I asked her for a tamale recipe. I needed a tamale recipe, and she said it'd be way too much to text back to me. Like, it's way too much to write out. I'm like, well, take a picture of it and send it to me. And she's like, no, it's all in my brain. I don't know why that was so fucking funny. Because she's like, it's all in my brain. And I'm like, okay. And then she sent me a link to, like, some Google document of making tamales. But I just thought it was so funny that so much of it is in her brain. Like, she doesn't want to write it out.
Mm-hmm. Did you make the tamales?
No, I haven't made them. It's a process, dude. If any listeners out there know, tamale making can fucking lead you to drink. Motherfucker, dude. It is a process, dude.
What is it, like the masa?
You gotta make masa, you gotta get the husks, you gotta like steam the husks, then you gotta steam the masa, then you gotta stew the meat overnight. It's like a multi-day process. It's like but they're good. I'm still probably gonna do it. I want to try to make sweet ones, and yeah, anyway. Yeah, the sweet ones are good.
So, well, one, I wanted to say thank you for saying that about me. I do feel like I can express my love a little bit easier. And I think that that's part of that. I think that has been one of the gifts of recovery for me, is being able to do that and being comfortable with it, because it's never been it's always been something that I've been made fun of, or, when you're a sensitive kid, right?
Right. I have to use humor and sarcasm.
Right. So, I mean, that's always something and it's like, oh, okay. And now it's not even something that has to be some profound, bold expression of my love for the world and nature and all this stuff. That is a little weird. But it can just be like something cool, or like when I take pictures, and I'm like, oh, look at this beautiful flower. Like, what's wrong with taking a picture of a beautiful flower? There's nothing.
You should appreciate it. We have a very finite amount of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, it's good to appreciate the things around you. Absolutely. This is also another reason why I fucking got sober. It's because I have a finite amount of time.
Really? Tell me. This occurred to you?
It just occurred to me now, really, honestly. But I think it's always been on the surface. Is I'm gonna die one day. So what the fuck? Do I really want to live the rest of my life fighting and feeling resentful and angry and hungover and drunk and go through that whole cycle? Like, every day to me is the same, very similar, but they're different now. I can notice the differences, and that's that realization that I could not notice that sober. I mean, drinking. I couldn't notice it drinking. It's like that whole Bukowski thing. and there was that. Remember that Factotum movie? Was it
Yeah,
Factotum
it
that
was
came
Matt
out with
Dillon.
Yeah, and there was this Slow Day song, and it was called Slow Day, and it was like slow day, slow week, and she's like, everything's just the same and nothing really matters. And it's like cribbed from a Bukowski sentiment, and that's how I felt like my life was. Like everything's exactly the same. Nothing matters because it's just a slow life I'm leading in a circle, just experiencing trauma constantly. You know, this circular trauma. I always talk about that circle. Whereas now I live in a like kind of a loop, but it's a positive loop. You know, like I have I have things I have to do because in the long run they make me feel better, and I get to appreciate those things I do. You know, like I didn't appreciate them before. Just like with you and your, like you make movies and put them on Instagram of like buzzards flying, and I'm like, what the fuck? But you appreciate the elegance of their flight, and so that it comes a lot from like recovery, and it's almost like, ah, man, I don't want to compare it to like getting a death sentence, but in a way it kind of is. It's almost like almost dying, or it's like almost like a near-death experience of its own kind.
There's this
but not
book,
a big, profound one, just a little tiny one.
yeah.
You know?
There's this book called The Tools, and I wish I have it written down somewhere. I gave it to somebody. It's called The Tools. It's by this guy who's a psychiatrist, and he lives in LA, and he's done a bunch of work with a lot of famous actors and stuff like that. But one of the tools is imagine yourself in your deathbed, looking back at your life, and what are the things you would have wished you would have done? Go do that today.
Right.
You know,
and
don't wait.
I love that because this is a device I go back to all the time when I make big decisions in my life. And sometimes I'll even say, like, really, do I want to lay in my deathbed in some fucking hospital or in hospice and go, man, I'm sure glad I drank all that Evan Williams. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, like, I'm glad I drank it when I drank it, but I'm glad I'm not drinking it anymore.
Yeah.
Because I am grateful for my active alcoholism. Absolutely.
I have to be.
I have to be. But it's true. I make every big decision I make. I think about me in hospice or me wherever I am or whatever the circumstances are. And I go, am I going to look back and go, fuck, I should have made that decision. Or I should have quit that job. Or I should have done this or whatever. Or, you know, I should have encouraged my wife to do this. You know. And that's why I try really hard to encourage people around me that I really care about. Like, try the thing. If the thing doesn't work, oh well, what do you lose?
Nothing.
You know?
I mean, most of the time
really,
it depends, but no,
depends,
you know, and we talked a little bit about this, and I hope you don't mind. I want to bring this up about the vulnerability you have around art and creating art. And,
I don't mind talking about it. Yeah.
But
me and my fucking art. Yeah.
Well, because there's still things where I'm like, hey Jerry, I really need this thing. I need this thing. Remember we were doing we did a little thing for Instagram where it was, you know, cartoons that got sober, or like cartoon drunks that got sober.
And I did like 3 of them, and then I had to draw everything for Kelsey and her whole crew.
And I was like, hey, what about BoJack Horseman? Even though I don't watch that, or Bender, and you're like, yeah, I'll get it, yeah, whatever. And so you talk about this thing where you took something that you loved, drawing, art, and you know you make a decent living tattooing people for a living, and sometimes it wears on you, and sometimes you know you don't feel as I'll put it to you this way. I don't want to. You have said to me, you've expressed to me that you don't feel as inspired to do the painting and the artwork, and that art has now become a bit of a chore for you because you're always putting that creative juice into somebody else's.
Right, yeah, like none
thing.
of it's, rarely any of it's mine anymore. Even when I do shit for me now because of Instagram and the internet and having to get people to put eyeballs on my shit to ensure that I have work, even the stuff I draw for fun now is, I always think about who's going to be looking at it. Always. Now. Yeah, it's just lost its luster. And it'll come back. I honestly think
so?
It will.
I hope so.
Man, I just hit waning periods, right? And so I know to other people it's a novelty because they can't draw or they can't make art or they can't paint. And they look at my art and they go, "Wow, I can't believe you did that. I could never do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know you can't." And I can't I can barely do it myself though. Because I look at it and I'm like, "I can't do it either. Like I'm just faking this. I'm a total fraud. Like this is not real." Like
But do you really believe that you're a fraud?
Yeah, oh yeah, but in a good way, not in a bad way.
Oh.
Like it's not in a way that I'm like tracing, which all of tattooing is fucking tracing anyway. But do you know what I'm saying? Like
No,
I'm like,
why are you a fraud?
because I could do better. Because I could actually be painting and using the device that was given to me by my higher power. And I just like don't like it. I'm like, ugh, man, I gotta paint this thing for you, really? Really? I like already have to draw all this shit for everybody else. Like maybe I just want to sit down and draw a butt and a heart and go to sleep. Or whatever, you know, but now I have to draw, like, I have to do a whole leg sleeve of flowers for fucking Kelsey, and then Chad wants a cover up that I need to figure out what this cover up's gonna be. So now I gotta sit down and concentrate on how this cover up's not gonna look like shit and cover up everything. And Chad can't come back in 2 weeks and be like, I can still see my wife's name through it or whatever. Like, I have to think about all that shit. Like, not just shit like, and I know this is, hey, preaching to choir, because there's a guy out there right now mopping a fucking Arby's going, fuck you, Jerry. And listen to this on his headphones being like, fuck you, I gotta mop an Arby's. You know, like, I don't want to mop an Arby's. And I don't hate it comes off like I'm complaining, but what it is more is like the creative aspect of my life. So then I go home and I carry all this stuff. So the creative aspect is now, like I come home and to decompress, like the last thing I'm gonna do is draw more. You know, I'm done drawing. Like I'll doodle and I'll sketch and I'll sit down on my iPad and loose sketch things and come up with ideas, but I rarely finish them. I don't even finish my own shit. So like I know other people out there are waiting for me to do things, or like you're like, hey, draw a bender with a fucking LaCroix. Right. And I'm like, I don't even finish my own shit. Like I draw stuff for myself that I've had sitting on that iPad for 8 months. I have paintings in the garage that have been there for 2 years that I do for myself that I just don't finish because the motivation just goes away at some point. Yeah, because someone on Instagram will hit me up in the middle of that painting and be like, can I get a price quote? And then I got to commit to that now and roll over to that and be like, well, always on the job. So,
yeah,
you know, yeah, it's always, I could go through my messages right now and be like, hey, I'm thinking about getting this tattooed by you. How much is it? And then I'll give them a rough price quote. And then I never hear from them again. They turn into ghosts. They just ghost away because that's too much, I guess.
Maybe you could set up like a Venmo account and they could Venmo you like $5 to start the discussion.
Right, exactly.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I've got to talk to one of my coworkers has this whole social media thing figured out. Like, I honestly just want to throw my phone on the roof all the time. It's funny, too, because I'll be doing shit like I'll go to pick my daughter up from school and I'll be sitting there in the car waiting for her and the kids all come out. And the minute the kids come out, someone will hit me up on Instagram. Someone will text me about something stupid, and then another person will text me about something on top of that. So I'll get like 3 things at once while trying to get Olive in the car, and like I have Generation X brain, so I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like, which is like, you know, post-boomer brain. Like I just can't handle it. And it'll be like, literally it'll be someone on Instagram being like, how much for this fucking thing? And then someone else being like, did you see this meme of a dog doing a tattoo? And then like, I don't know, like someone else... Like, one of my coworkers texting me being like, do you need to buy needles? And it all hits me at once, and I get so overwhelmed. Yeah, I'm like, done with this. Done with all of it.
Do you...
Done with art.
Done with art. I mean...
Done with it.
So
no, I'm still going to make art. I can't not make art. I have to retire one day, right? But I can't. I can never retire. That's the other thing, too.
Do you think if you quit your job, you would want to do art more? If this is the thing... Now, I'm not saying that that's feasible or possible today.
I don't know. Like, in my ideal world, would I still be tattooing? Yeah, I'd probably still tattoo, but I probably wouldn't do it for money. Like, in an ideal world, if I could just be independently wealthy and pursue tattooing as an actual art form and not have to depend on it to pay my bills, yeah, I absolutely would still tattoo. Not 5 days a week, 1 day a week.
By appointment only? By
appointment only, right? Yeah. But as, like... But, I would not be working banker's hours tattooing if I were independently wealthy. Yeah. And I'd probably still be painting and making art, yeah. Because I have to flex that muscle. Hey, man, it's like you have to run all day for your job, and then you come home and people are like, why aren't you running? You're a talented runner. And you're like, I just ran all day for my job.
I'm done.
That's all I did all day. I'm done. I'm one of those Maasai, and I have to chase a fucking lion across 40 miles of savannah.
Yeah.
Then he comes home to his Maasai wife, and she's like, hey, why aren't you running? You're a talented runner. You should run for me. And he's like, I want to go to bed.
I think, you know, and it's such a, I feel like the creativity requires a lot of sitting. Like I can't draw. I can't do what you do. And like you said, you're like, yeah, I know you can't. That's it. But so like mine is a little bit different, and mine is definitely is my creativity is helped by the technology that I have at my disposal. Right.
Right.
I can
Same
take
here.
pictures
I can
and
relate.
video, and
Yeah.
you're right. But I think a lot of it requires just sitting, and some of it requires there'll be just periods where I'm like, yeah, man, I don't want to fuck it. And all I'll be thinking about is this project that I'm working on, but I don't
Right.
actually get into doing it. So it's just
Right.
becomes this sort of monkey on my back about like, you should be doing this. And it's like, I don't
Right.
want to do this, but you should
Yes.
be. I don't want
Absolutely.
to, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes,
this
yes,
whole back and
yes.
forth, and it's only in my own brain a lot of times because nobody's hitting me up for anything. But you can, if you'd like, asforalcoholic@gmail.com. But
It's not really. There's like no detail to what you do. Just
No.
John will do something.
Yeah.
Hit John up and he could do something. What is it? Something.
something.
You'll find out.
What do you need? Something.
Something.
Yeah. But it's like, so I get through that. And then once I finally get into it, and then there's things that I want to get done that I'm proud that I did, but that I didn't really enjoy. And so sometimes I'll have to put those off and do something else fun. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, finding those, and like you said, those lulls and ups and downs and just being, and also just being frustrated with it and having to be okay and accept the frustration with it, and going like, fuck, I just don't want to fucking do this right now. And this is, I have no joy in this anymore. And
Right.
trying to find that joy, because if you said there's no more inspiration because it's all been sucked dry.
Right. Or at least it's just kind of, sucked dry. It sounds so negative, though, but you fucking, it has and hasn't. It's
Yeah.
still there. It's just not an endless well. And what we were talking about before we got on the podcast, too, is like, you've known me for years, and I've always been like, I might have just said this, but like tattooing doesn't define me. Like it's just my job. And I know people who tattooing defines them. Like that's their title and that's who they are. And to me, I'm like, this is my job and I love it, but this is not who I am. Like but I don't know who I am. I don't know what defines me. Does my alcoholism define me? No, but it defines some of my actions. Just like tattooing defines some of my actions, being a father defines some of my actions, but to say I am just a tattooer, I am just an alcoholic, that's doesn't do me any justice because I am a multifaceted firework.
Yes, you are. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
and this whole point about expressing who you are and being comfortable
Right.
enough to do that. And,
Right.
and the two things that just occurred to me, you just said, even when I'm doing something for myself, I often look at it through other people's eyes because I want to know what it's going to look like. I certainly, with all the video work that I've done,
Because it's a visual thing, right?
I've done it.
Yeah.
So I've done the video work. Now I try to do it in the format of Instagram because that's where I'm going to display it. So I'm no longer like interested in, how things look, how I want them to look. I'm like, okay, well, it needs to be a square. So all the pictures I take need to be squares. And so all this, so on and so forth. But so that idea of looking at it through somebody else's eyes. And also I remember you telling me as a very young lad that, you'd be hanging out and if you were broke, you'd say like, hey, can I have a cigarette? And somebody'd be like, well, yeah, only if you draw me this thing. Right?
Yes.
And so I'll give you a cigarette, or can I have a
That
drink?
was an old Coda. Coda would be like, draw me a fucking businessman smoking crack with a monkey on his head. And so I'd have to draw it really fast. And then Coda would give me a cigarette and he'd throw me $3 and be like, go get a burrito, kid. I'd love to have that guy on. Like just on any of those podcasts. These people need to meet Coda. He's a character.
I'm gonna hook it up so that we can
He's
all
been
talk.
playing a lot. I mean, not to digress in his path.
No.
We're hitting it here. He's been playing a lot of Grand Theft Auto again lately.
Has
He's
he?
coming up on my PlayStation. Yeah, it's all Grand Theft Auto Racing. So I can just see him over there racing.
Uh-huh.
Just playing GTA Racing. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I had to draw things for.
So I
my
wonder if
roommate.
some of this, resistance towards the art stems from like this decades long feeling like it's a job rather
It's
than.
a great question. I don't know. I'll have to suss that one out with my therapist. I don't have a therapist though, so it's just me and my cat. Just like, what do you think? A spooky? And she's like, I don't know. I'm probably dying. I'm like, yeah, probably.
She's not dying. She's just
She's
got a
got
little
asthma.
cold or something. Yeah.
Cat cold. Yeah. I don't know, man.
But
stresses me out.
And
Like,
I love...
This is what I'm talking about, vulnerability. I'm like, don't make me love you and then fucking die, you asshole. That's bullshit.
That's what cats do.
That's life. Yeah, exactly.
They make you love them, and then they die. And that's life, right? That's...
Yeah.
You know, all I was going to say is I love the... What was the one? Was it the Mickey Mouse on the cactus?
Yeah.
I liked all the Mickey Mouse ones. That one was my favorite. I really liked that one.
I want to make stickers of that or something. I don't know.
We'll
see. That involves effort on my end, and I'm bad at that.
Don't put yourself out, Jerry.
I got to stop telling myself I'm bad at that. As we finish the podcast, I'm going to go look at myself in the mirror right now in the bathroom and be like, you're good at it.
You're not bad at it because you haven't even fucking tried, Jerry.
I don't do it. I just don't do it. You're not bad at it. You wouldn't even know. You can get out there and shine. Like you said, you're a firework.
Yeah, you're a big, bright, shining star.
Who is that?
That's
yeah, exactly.
Dirk
Just
Diggler.
waving a big plastic dick in the mirror. No, who does the fireworks song? Why can't I remember her name? She's famous.
I don't know. Katy Perry?
Yes.
Is it really?
I forgot her fucking name. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there you go. I mean, I don't know. I have always been a big fan. In fact, I can't show you, but I have 2 pieces of your art on my wall. I've got one that on the back side, it's they're coming to take me away, ha-has. Do you remember those guys? On the back it says Coda's bed frame part 1 or something. It was like you took apart his fucking futon.
Oh yeah, because he moved out and so I broke his futon and painted it. Yeah.
And then I have this other one. Well, actually, I have 3 in here. I have another one, which is these little, they're like little...
I guess I should probably send you something from not 1999, huh?
Or 03. There's the pink bunnies with the fangs, and there's a little blue outline. It's super small. It's like this big. And then I have the portrait you did of me with the snake, which was... That's a pretty...
Oh my God, yeah, that portrait's awful. I need to... I want to do... Listen, it is...
The nose is off, but...
Everything is a mess, dude.
So the best part was, we're being vulnerable, and I just want to... the best part about that portrait was that we all were living in different parts of the country, I believe, and we all came together.
I was in Arizona.
In Las Vegas, that's right. And so we were all meeting up in Las Vegas to have this have a party. It was like a big birthday party for a bunch of us. And so I think on the last day or second to last day, after drinking for 3 or 4 days straight or whatever it was, Jerry's like, I painted you, and he handed me this thing, and he's like, mostly I just want you to have to carry this picture of yourself on the plane back. Like, that was part of the motivation. Was I really want to I want to do a painting of John, and I think it'd be really cool, but also this is going to be hilarious to make him carry this giant canvas on the plane.
Portrait of himself on a plane. It's great. Man, I don't think it's badly done. I worked really hard. It took me a while. I worked hard on it. I just got your face wrong. Maybe that needs to be my new project, is getting your face right.
Huh?
Anyway, but yeah, that was funny because in my mind I pictured you drunk, hungover, sweating.
Mm-hmm. All
carrying
of the above.
This giant... it wasn't that big of a portrait. I think it was like 18 by 30. Maybe not even that big. It's probably a 12 by 24.
Big enough to be on Southwest, yeah.
Yeah. Just carrying this sweating through your shirt. Fat, cigarette, hungover as fuck. Green. We were all green from drinking so much.
Exactly.
I drank so much.
That was my plane ride home. And I had it, and I couldn't put it anywhere, so I had to like sit with it at my knees, at my legs.
In your knees, yeah. And you're just like, excuse me, could I get a vodka? Just a vodka and whatever.
Just whatever. Just
I'm literally dying right now. Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I think even just doing art in any way, it takes a little bit of vulnerability to put yourself on the page.
Oh yeah, it takes. Well, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you people need to be more vulnerable out there. That's we're telling you. No, I don't know.
I think it is really important in recovery. That's all. In my recovery.
My call to action. Yeah, yes. My call to action. Go be fucking vulnerable out there.
Share. Show yourself.
Share. Yeah. But don't share too long. You're wasting everybody's time.
But I think, yeah, man, I would love to hear from anybody. I know we really don't do call to actions too much. But if anybody out there, I know there's like a couple hundred of you that listen regularly, and there's a few of you that might write us. Send me an email, hit me up on Instagram, A is for Alcoholic, Facebook, and I'd just love to hear about a story about you being vulnerable. And also, I think next week I'll give you a little, we're gonna talk about what keeps us sober today. That's the W. And if you want to be a part of that show, send me a message or send me a voice memo and email it to me, like 30 seconds, and tell me what keeps you sober today, and we'll
just do it on your phone. Be
just
like,
do it
hey,
on your
yo,
phone.
this is a Bing Bong from Tuscaloosa. I gotta say,
you're a long
the
distance
new
driver.
the new Lego Bionicle set is what keeps me sober. Love Legos.
Whatever.
Love the podcast.
Ace
Jerry's
for
overbearing.
alcoholic at gmail.com. But yeah, man, I just think share with us. We'd love to share it out there.
Yeah.
What else, Jerry? Is that it?
I think that's it.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.